Hello and happy 2024. I cannot believe that the holidays are over and we are into the new year. If you cannot tell from what is behind me, I am filming an everything I made in 2023 video. So with me, I have 25 projects, but in total, I made 41 projects this year, 26 of which were accessories, 15 were garments, 14 were gifts. I participated in 5 test knits, made 2 samples for yarn dyers, ended up using 5,577 grams of yarn, which was 22,513 meters, which equals 13.99 miles of yarn. So I knit a half marathon's worth of yarn, which I think is pretty cool. My average project duration in days was 10 days per project. I ended up knitting from a total of 28 designers, and my most popular designer was Petite Knit with 5 patterns, and my most common yarn weight was fingering used through the year. So I have some fun things to go through today. Of course, you'll see 25 projects live, and then for the ones I don't have, I will have photos and speak a little bit about. So let's get into it. Okay, so before we officially start out, I wanted to do some quick housekeeping. First of all, you might notice I got a microphone, which is awesome, but this is my first test run of the microphone, so I'm trying really hard not to touch it, and I'm hoping the audio turns out well, but please bear with me. Hopefully it's better. Please comment down below if you have a preference or a suggestion. The next thing that I wanted to say quickly, I do have a tablet with me with all of my projects. So you will notice I'm looking a little bit to the side. I could not memorize the stats for all 41 of my projects, so please bear with me there. And then finally, I did create an entire spreadsheet of all of my knitwear this year and then made some formulas to pull out the data I found most interesting. I will have my spreadsheet linked down below. It's a Google Sheet, so it'll be in a view-only form, and you are totally welcome to make a copy for yourself if you are interested in calculating your own yarn or knitting statistics for last year or the coming year. So, okay, let's get into it. The first thing I made this year was this cardigan. So this is the Piece of Me cardigan. It was a Wool in the Gang kit, and so it uses the Wool in the Gang Take Care Mohair, which is an Aran weight yarn, and I started it in 2022. I started it on December 23rd, 2022, and I finished this January 8th. Here is what this looks like on. I've got to be honest, I have not put this on my body in quite a while. I realized after this that I'm not crazy about mohair. And this yarn does have a wool content too. It's not just mohair, but it is, got some mohair in it, and it's a seamed garment as well. And yeah, I mean, it's not my favorite construction. I've just realized I really don't love seamed garments where they go in at the sleeves, because you're seaming here. So not my favorite, and it was just 5 squares that I then sewed together. So it was a good experience, though. It was my first time working with a mohair-esque yarn or a fluffy yarn, and it's still cool. Like, nice overpiece. It's nice and warm. But yeah, it was fine. I should also say I started knitting in July of 2022. And so a lot of the early pieces in the year I would still consider kind of beginner knits, where I was figuring out what I was doing. And I really hit my stride a few months into the year. So that was my first project, and it's the Piece of Me cardigan. The next thing that I knit was the banana cardigan, which was another kit. So this was a kit from We Are Knitters. I believe that it was a Christmas gift from my mom, this kit. And it's still a cute cardigan. Again, it's seamed. It uses the Petite Wool by We Are Knitters in the either white or natural colorways, and then the colorway Yarnicorn. So the fun little rainbow stripes are that Yarnicorn, And I still think that this is a nice garment. It's nice to just throw it on. I actually wore it to the movies like 2 days ago. I don't love, there's no neck shaping. It's just, there's just, you don't sew the front two pieces together. So it kind of fits weird. It eventually starts kind of riding down here, but it's still cute. And yeah, I like this one. Another kit, another seamed thing, but I should say to you, I started this on the 21st of January and I finished it on the 5th of February. And it was nice. I remember my boyfriend and I went on a little trip for our anniversary, which is in December. But with the holidays, we usually celebrate in January. And I was knitting on it on that trip. So this cardigan will always have fond memories for that reason. The next thing I knitted, and then I promise we're moving out of kits, was this papaya sweater, another We Are Knitters kit, which I believe this was another Christmas gift from Christmas 2022. I don't totally want to try it on, but this uses brioche stitch, so it's a two-color brioche, another seamed paneled garment, and it also uses the petite wool, which I forgot to say earlier is a bulky weight yarn, and 100% wool. It's single plied, so used the petite wool in, do not have the colorways written down. I think that it was blush and natural potentially, but a light colorway and a pinky colorway. They don't have a huge colorway library, so you can likely find it. And I endearingly termed this my meat sweater a while ago because to me it does kind of look like raw meat, like a raw steak. I don't know. So I obviously don't wear it. It's also a boat neck, which I don't love. But this is honestly my most used knit of 2023 because I turned it into a cat bed. So you might be able to see on the front, there's quite a lot of wear on here because one of my cats loves sleeping on it. So I have a little basket. I'll put a picture of her in it. But I have a little basket that I put blankets in my office, and this lives on the top of it, and she loves napping on it. So it has gotten really good use throughout the year, even if I am not the one to use it. This was also an interesting piece because I don't know exactly what happened, but when I seamed the sleeve together here, it was just way too tight. So I had to figure out how to add in a little bit more fabric. So I made this kind of diamond shape. And I remember talking to my mom about it, saying like, I have to remember how to use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out how many stitches to do here. Like it was interesting to figure out, but I'm glad I figured that out. And I've worn this once, but again, Kat uses it every day, so I would not consider it a waste. So good one. And then the next thing I knit, I do not have with me. I made a pair of beginner socks, which is a pattern by Darling J'adore. And it uses, oh my gosh, what's the weight? Worsted weight yarn. So I used worsted acrylic for this project. It was the Lion Brand Basic Stitch yarn, which was what I used for my first ever project. And I just did it to figure out how to make socks. Learning how to do the heel flap and gusset on a smaller scale before I went into the entire piece, I think was really smart for me to just get comfortable with that concept. But they were atrocious to wear. You could feel every single stitch because of how bulky the yarn was, and it was acrylic yarn, which I don't find to be the softest either, so they made my feet really sweat, and they were not great. I don't even know if I have a picture, honestly. I don't think I do. So I'll have a picture up of the sample from the designer. But they're a great way to learn how to make a pair of socks. But other than that, wouldn't recommend. Unless you want really, really bulky socks, I guess. But I don't know. I prefer my socks thinner. So we'll move on to the next thing, which is, why am I doing that? My sweater number 15. So this is a My Favorite Things knitwear pattern. I'm going to try to very carefully put it on without messing with the microphone. This is a My Favorite Things knitwear pattern, the sweater number 15, and I knit this out of Vernalia Joy, which is a lace weight baby alpaca in the color rose gold, and Drops Kid Silk in the color cherry sorbet. This sweater is so itchy. Unfortunately, I realized with this sweater that I do not like mohair. I cannot tolerate mohair. I know that this is a cheaper brand of mohair. This is the Drops Kid Silk, but I've realized like just any mohair doesn't feel good for me. So this one, I should say, I started it on February 10th and I finished it on March 12th. So I was able to wear this for my birthday, which is March 15th, and I've worn this like a few times. Normally I'll wear it with a turtleneck under, and then it's doable. It's also quite warm since it is the alpaca and the mohair, but it's still cute. I don't know. It's a beautiful sweater. It's my profile picture. I can't hate it. The cables look wonderful. The color's great. I love twisted ribs, so I would still call this one like a successful project, even though I can't wear it. It's very itchy, but under the right circumstances, I can, and I know that I will always keep this piece because I'm proud of it. But I do have to rip it off my body now. It is so itchy. Okay, the next thing I made was my first pair of socks, or like I should say like normal, not normal. The other ones were also normal socks, but like wearable socks. So I just have one here. The pattern is the I'm So Basic socks by Summerlee Designs. It is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I used yarn. It was the less traveled yarn in the colorway Antelope Canyon was this color, and then this is Knitted Wit in the color Brown Sugar, and they just were both sold at my local yarn store. I still wear these a lot. I should say too, I started these on March 13th and finished them on March 20th. And yeah, I still wear these a lot. They honestly are probably my most worn socks even to this day. They're nice and thick, and they just feel like they hold up well. I really like the construction too. They're a little bit loose, but I've realized lately that most of my socks are kind of loose. I'd rather them be too loose than too tight, so I can't be that upset. And yeah, I think the yarn is like a really pretty color, and they've just held up really well. I machine wash them all the time. I've never de-pilled them, and they have very few pilling issues. The color, is still very consistent. So overall, I really like this pair of socks. And since they were kind of my first pair, and there's still some problems with them, like I think it's the other one, yeah. I need to go back and weave in this end, like there's ends poking out, because I still hadn't mastered all these techniques. So I don't feel bad about wearing these wherever I want to go. So that is also a nice thing where, it's nice to have knitwear that you take care of and love and want to keep really nice, but it's also nice to have the thing that you can just throw on and not worry about too much. And that's that pair of socks for me. So yeah, the next thing I've been made was this cardigan, which I have not tried on in a while. I think it's kind of been too cold to wear it. I also realized it wasn't the most office friendly, which is what I'd originally made it for. So that was slightly annoying, but it just gapes a little bit more than I'd like. But this is the Wrap Me Up cardigan by Plum Mum. And it ties like so. I don't even remember how to put it on. And then this actually kind of covers like that. So it's worn like this, and it is a really cute garment. But you can see it kind of hangs a little bit low. But it's got this cute little. You could do a choice with a ruffle. I'm trying to show you all the way. A choice with more of a ruffle, or just kind of have it decrease and hit right at your natural waist, and then have a little bit more stitches and have a little bit of a flare out. So this is still a really nice garment. I knit it with 2 strands of Kama Rose Midnut Sole in the color Gragron. And yeah, I mean, it's still cute. It feels good against my body. It's nice to throw on. I think over a dress it would be really cute. But it's not really great to wear just like as your top, since it does kind of gape at the front. So even if you are wearing something under it, I don't know. I don't love it. But it was fun. It was my first time making eye cords, which of course now my cat below me is trying to get from me. So lots of firsts in this garment, and I vividly remember I was watching Outer Banks while knitting it, so it will forever be like the Outer Banks cardigan to me. But yeah, it's a great piece, and it was the first one I vividly remember sending a picture of me wearing it the first time I wore it out to my mom, saying like, this is the most wearable thing I've made so far. This is amazing, because I'd made bulky, slightly itchy, bulky, borderline unwearable to me, very itchy. So this was the first lightweight piece. Sorry, Kepler. Cat has the I cord. This was the first kind of lightweight fitted piece I'd made, and it was my first raglan. So when I was first wearing it out, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I finally made something that I really want to wear. And since then I've done that a lot more, which is amazing. But this was the first. So even though now I'm like, I still love it, and I might revisit this pattern one day. I might have done the wrong size for me, I'm not sure. But yeah, that. The next thing I made, just trying to check my list, I made a pair of socks for my friend in the same, oh my gosh, Kepler, I'm trying to pull down my pants, the same yarn as these socks exactly. I made the Totally Rad ribbed socks by Summer Lee, and I know for a fact that I do not have a picture of them, so but this is the colors I used for like these exact, the brown and the Antelope Canyon colorway, or what I used, and it was a really nice pair of socks. I know that my friend really values those socks and wears them a lot. I get to see them a lot, so I'm really happy about that. And it was another fun pattern to do, and it was my first afterthought heel, so that was an interesting technique to learn as well. Okay. Then I made my very different than the pattern cumulus blouse. It was actually my first petite knit pattern ever, which is interesting, and I immediately kind of changed everything about it. So originally this pattern is to be knit with 2 strands of a lace weight fluff yarn, like a Surrey or a mohair, and I used 1 strand of a fingering weight bamboo. So very different fiber choices, which gave very different effects at the end. I think I learned a lot through this blouse. I learned a lot about why certain patterns are written for certain yarn types. You can see here, like, this is very messy because bamboo yarn doesn't hide things like a fluffy wool or animal fiber yarn does. So the arm decreases I find to be very messy. I also haven't worn this garment in a while, so it's got some wrinkles, but yeah, there's a lot of things about this garment that I find messy, and it's okay though. It's still a nice thing to just throw on. I also had to, well, I didn't have to, but I decided after I finished it that I didn't like the color I knitted in. It was originally in this kind of very beige color that was a little bit too close to my skin tone for my liking, so I ended up dyeing it with Rit dye to be this kind of sagey color. And yeah, it was an interesting process. I learned a lot through this garment, and it was my first petite knit, and it was my second raglan, and I still really love raglans. I think it's honestly my favorite thing to make. So, you know, can't be that upset. And it is a wonderful piece. I think that I would like to revisit the Cumulus blouse in the future with the recommended yarns, because it was a really nice, easy knit, and I do really like the silhouette. But maybe I should have knit it in the recommended yarn. But it's still, I don't know, it's still easy to throw on. Like, it's one of those things, just like my first pair of socks, where I can throw it on. I don't have to put a lot of thought into how I'm wearing it. It can just be worn, which is nice. Okay, the next thing I made, just check in, is the Sophie shawl. So I immediately went from knitting 0 petite knit patterns to 2 in a row. So this is another petite knit pattern, and I knit this in the Drops Air in the colorway Blush. And I love this. It is so comfy. I honestly mostly wear it kind of wrapped around myself like this. I don't know why. I end up wearing it around my office or at home, and so I don't need it to be a big bulky scarf. I just need it to kind of wrap around me and be comfy like this. It's really nice and squishy. It's quite long, which I like, and just like the Sophie shawl or Sophie scarf, got the two pointed ends and then point in the middle. And then yeah, it's just an easy thing to throw on and keep you warm. I really like the Drops Air yarn as well. And yeah, that's all I need to say about this. I need to make sure to go a little bit quicker than I probably am, because you probably don't want to watch a 2-hour video. I don't want to film a 2-hour video. So yeah, okay. The next thing I made, I also do not have. It was a Mother's Day gift to my mom. Well, actually, the yarn was an Easter gift from my mom to me, and then I made her a pair of socks for Mother's Day to gift to her. So I will insert a picture of them. They were the Ode to Barbara socks by Summer Lee Designs, and I knit them in Salty Blonde fibers in the colorway English Garden, and then another little bit of Knitted Wit, which is just carried at my local yarn store in mini skeins. And I do not have the colorway of that one written down, but it was like a pink, maybe blushy color, is how I would describe it. So they were very cute. She doesn't wear them all that often. She finds them a little bit slippy, but still wears them sometimes. And it was my first experience with lace knitting, and that was very enjoyable. So yeah, good pair of socks. The next thing I made, I also do not have, but I have half of it. So I made a pair or like a winter's accessories set with this yarn, which is from Road Trip Sock Yarn, another local to me dyer in the colorway Sasha. This dyer, she partnered with a local pet rescue humane society. I think it was Humane Society, and dyed yarn to look like certain adoptable pets, and then proceeds of the yarn would go to the shelter, and then it also raised awareness of certain pets that were there if you were interested in adopting. So this colorway was called Sasha. It was a little kitty, and it actually looks really close to the colors of my cat, I'd say, except for this like black. I have a dilute tortie, and she's got a lot of these colors in her. So I made a little set with a weekend hat, another petite knit pattern, which I ended up actually giving away. It was just a little bit big, and it went to a really good home with my boyfriend's dad. And so I had that, and then I also made some gloves to match or fingerless mitts. The fingerless mitts are by Paula Strict or Suzanne Mueller, and they're a little bit big for me. I totally mismeasured my hand circumference, so I find them a little bit big. They're also just like long. So these don't get a ton of wear, but they are nice to have, and my boyfriend and I kind of share them, so he still gets to use them, and they fit him a little bit better. But it was very fun to find cat yarn, especially I kept calling it my fig yarn. That's my cat's name, so it was fun. The next thing that I made, and I have not been saying when I made these things. Okay, I made those in May. So this took me May 13th through May 16th. Sorry. This was April 20th through May 10th. Oh my gosh. April 6th through April 20th. And then I think this was the last one I missed. This was March 20th through March 28th. Okay, I will try to remember that, but also I have to remember you probably do not care when I made them. Okay, the next thing that I made was the 7 p.m. tank. So this is a pattern by Tiff Knit, also known as Tiffany Tie on Ravelry, and it was my first tank top project, and it was really, really fun to make. The yarn for this is Rainbow Peaks yarn in cloud fingering in the colorway Jennifer. Rainbow Peaks is another local to me dyer, and it is so soft. It's got cashmere, I think maybe alpaca in it, at least some cashmere, and so it's really, really soft and just great to feel. So it is a very tight fitting to the body tank top, and kind of cropped, and it's really nice. It's got like a ribbed panel at the back here, and then double knitting around the front to keep the edges flat. You shape the bust, and you kind of make these little darts, which I thought was really cool. And then double knit straps. Don't know why I forgot the word for straps. And then I thought this was so clever. Tiffnet suggests getting old bra straps and sewing those in instead of just knitting the double knitting all the way down, so that you can actually adjust the top as it grows or as your body changes. And so I really enjoy that, and I think that this is just a beautiful overall garment. I'm not going to try it on right now because it would look really stupid over my tank top, but yeah, it's lovely. And then I ended up putting some elastic right in the front just to keep it from rolling over, but otherwise I knit this exactly to pattern. It was very fun. I knit this one May 13th through June 3rd, and I remember I was knitting this on a business trip. I was in a creepy-ish hotel room watching X-Files in DC. It was like the episode about a DC serial killer, and I was right, like I could see some of the landmarks they were talking about from my hotel. It was kind of a rundown hotel, and I was knitting this. So I don't know if you get that, but I have certain pieces of mine are really tied to like what I was watching or what I was doing at the time. I was also on a business trip during this project. I mentioned I was watching Outer Banks here, business trip, and X-Files. Like, yeah, I just have a lot of memories tied to the things I was knitting. So, yeah. Okay, the next thing I made, this is the April cardigan by Petite Knit. And I knit this with the Yarn Addict in free range fingering in the colorway Petal Perch, and a strand of Drops Kid Silk in color 41. I find this also pretty itchy. Dang mohair, which is so sad because I think this is such a beautiful garment. I can wear this again over long sleeves, but if I wear it, just against my body for too long, I definitely feel it. But it is really beautiful. It's also a little bit more cropped than I maybe should have made it. So I think that I'm definitely going to remake this pattern in the future because I think that it is stunning. And I still do really love it. It's really cute over dresses. Like I'll just have it open over dresses sometimes, and it's a lot better if it's open. So I can wear it like that. And it is really cute. And I was knitting this when we adopted our cat Kepler this year in July. And so I have a lot of memories of trying to protect my yarn from him for the first of many times. I'll see if I have a picture, and I will insert if so. But yeah, so I was knitting this in June. I keep forgetting when we adopted him. I was knitting this in June 8th through June 28th. So this took me a lot longer than some of my other sweaters because I was also managing a new kitten. So yeah, that was very fun. Okay, the next thing I made was this tank. This was my first ever test knit. This is the Vico tank by Contour Knit. I knit it out of Knitting for All of Pure Silk in the color Cardamom, and I'm going to touch the microphone. It is very cute. This was kind of a confusing test knit for me. The original sample photos had the final pattern the way I have it, where it is a 2x1 rib for the majority, and then you switch to 1x1 for kind of the underbust area. But the instructions were actually written for making a 1x2 rib, in which there would be like one column of knit stitches, 2 columns of purl stitches. And so I kind of ended up modifying a lot of it to get the original look. So it was kind of an interesting experience. I still really like this, and I like the other version. I really like kind of the shaping here, and the bust shaping is really nice. This is a really lovely thing to wear just like on a warm day, since it is the silk and it's not tight to the body. It feels really nice. It's cute with like high-waisted jean shorts or other like skirts. So yeah, I don't have too much to say about it. It was a good knit, and it was fun to have my first test knit experience this year. And this I started on June 27th, and I finished it on July 11th, which is Slushy Day. The next thing that I made was my second test knit. So I had 2 test knits very quickly after one another. This is the Low Key Bandana by Low Key Bold Knit. I modified this quite a bit, actually. Originally, you just knit this as big as you want, and then you do an Icelandic bind off. Yes, an Icelandic bind off to get a nice stretchy edge, and then it's just the bandana. There is no I-cord. It's also originally meant to be a fingering weight pattern, but I ended up using DK weight yarn and going up to a US 6 for this pattern, and I really like it. I think like the stitch pattern was the most important part, and I okayed these modifications with the designer. So it's this nice kind of rattan looking stitch, and I wore this a lot through the summer as a headband, and or not, yeah, headscarf, headkerchief, and yeah, I thought it was really, really cute. A really nice thing to wear through the summer just to keep the hair off of my face. And I knit this out of the Lion Brand True Blue yarn, and this is the colorway Sienna. I did also make another 2 bandanas in the colorway Celery in Lion Brand True Blue, but those were gifts. I no longer have them, and I no longer have photos either. But it's a very fun pattern. I highly recommend it. It's very quick too. I think I knit almost all of those in like a day. So if you are looking for something quick and kind of fun and very gratifying, since it is a very interesting looking stitch pattern, I highly recommend. It's also free. And I forgot, the designer is Low Key Bold Knit, if I did not say that. But yeah, okay. Next thing. These are the Florist Shorties. Well, this is one of 2. This is a pattern by Lindsay Fowler, and it's got this really nice motif down the front with these kind of, they're supposed to be like bottle brush flowers, I believe, but it's like a slip stitch pattern, and it's got a nice picot edge, and it's a shorty sock, which is really nice. So I knit this in the colorway English Garden by Salty Blonde Fibers. It was my leftovers from the socks I made for my mom for Mother's Day, and also Vintage Tea Towel by Salty Blonde Fibers. I love these. I knit them very quickly because I decided I wanted to wear them to the Barbie movie, and I'd only had one done when I decided to do that, and I was going to the Barbie movie later that day. So I knit one of the socks in just like one day, just to wear them to the Barbie movie. I don't really know why I had that urge, but I did. And yeah, they're really wonderful though. I really like the colors. I think they're really delicate, very cute. I really like shorties too, and the picot edge is just, I need to do more picots this year. But yeah, it was a fun pair. This is also, I should say, this is like my sock. I did so many socks in a row during this time. So just be prepared for socks. The next thing I made was the Inicio socks by the New York Year. This was another test knit, and I used Jada Woo Designs, the Great Pacific Northwest. I bought this yarn when I was in Seattle with my boyfriend, and these are my boyfriend's socks. So they were one of my gift knits, but I, live with him, so I get to steal them whenever I want. They're very big, of course, because of that. It's a nice 3x1 rib. There were 3 heel options, and I went with this heel because it seemed like the easiest one. It's just knit stitches, and I do really like the effect. It kind of looks like the ocean to me with the color I chose, so I like that a lot. And he enjoys these, and it was a really good test knitting experience. There was a great group chat going for it, and it's a really good, easy pattern. So I highly recommend it. And yeah, they were good in Seattle. I remember like casting these on while we were still in Seattle. Like my boyfriend helped me hand wind a ball of yarn to knit them from our hotel room, and then I was just knitting on them for the rest of the trip. It was great. Next thing I made, another sock, and these are the Mix It Up socks by This Handmade Life. I should actually, these you need to see both because they are different. So these are the Mix It Up socks by This Handmade Life. It's just a very scrappy, choose what you want to put on here, or like choose the colors you want, do random iterations of colors. Yeah, very fun pattern. I used mostly Gem State yarns on Etsy. She does like monthly, or I should say they do monthly mystery packs with a bunch of mystery minis. And so I did one of those in March and ended up with a bunch of these colors minus the brown, which is the same brown from, oh my gosh, from these socks. So I ended up making this pair of socks. I did this like for a knit along. Woolberry Fiber Co. kept talking about hosting this knitting read and knit along where you chose from a list of books, and then you chose from a list of patterns, and you read one of the books and you made one of the patterns. But the knit along never really happened. I don't know. But I got these amazing socks, so they're really fun. I also discovered This Handmade Life, and I love a lot of This Handmade Life patterns. So overall, positive experience, and the socks are very cute. They remind me just like they're very gardeny. Remind me of like summer harvest or something. And it's a 2x1 rib, basically throughout. And then I chose to do the afterthought heel. And yeah, they're good. And then I made one more pair of socks before I took a break from socks. And I made 2 more pairs of socks. I don't have either. So I made 2 more pairs of socks before I finally knit something that was not on a US 1 or US 0 needle. So first I made the Wildflower Bloom socks by Michelle Frazetta, also known as Mishi Fraz on Instagram. Here is a picture. They were beautiful. This was another test knit, and it was my first time doing stranded color work. So because it was my first time doing stranded color work, they ended up pretty tight. And so I kept them for a while. I was able to wear them for a little while after I kind of aggressively blocked them, but then I had to wash them and I didn't re-block them as aggressively, and so I was really struggling to get them to fit, and even when they did fit, they were still kind of tight. And so I ended up giving them to one of my friends who has smaller feet than I do, and she loves them. So still worked out in the end, and they were a joy to knit, and beautiful pattern. I used the Wandering Flock Baby Paca yarn in the colorway Maidstone, and then Malabrigo sock yarn, which does not have nylon, in the colorway Jasmine. So this picture, they're very cute, and I'm happy that they have a good home. And then finally, my last sock for a little bit, I made the Cozy Autumn socks by This Handmade Life, and I knit these for Poppy and Spruce Fibers, another local to me dyer, in the colorway Blood Moon. So she was releasing her autumn collection of colorways, and I sample knit for her, so I do not have these anymore either. Here's a picture. I did get the extra yarn, or the leftover yarn, back. Well, not back. I kept the leftover yarn, and so you will see it again. But yeah, it was a joy. It was my first sample knit, and it was really fun to do that. And then after that, I kept calling myself a professional knitter, which, yes, I am. So yeah, that was that pair of socks. And then finally, I made the camisole number 4. So this is another My Favorite Things knitwear pattern. And it features, oh my gosh, it features broken rib and a kind of nice deep V, and I think it is beautiful. I knit this out of the Kami Yarns linen blend in the colorway Exordium. I also just realized I've not been saying when I finish things again. This was knit in, I started it in August 15th, and I finished it September 5th. The other things were all knit between July and the end of August. So yeah, this one took a little bit longer because I actually ended up putting this one on hold to make the Wildflower Bloom socks and the Cozy Autumn socks because they had deadlines, but finally finished this one in early September and got to wear it to California actually to visit my grandma, and I love it. I think that the colorway is just amazing. It's like really subtle, and the broken rib is really beautiful. I mostly followed the pattern. I did end up casting on a few less stitches underneath the sleeve than recommended. I just wanted to be a little bit closer to my body. I also ended up, instead of just knitting the I-cord straight and attaching it at the back, I made 2 little ties so that I can adjust it as it kind of loosens out, since especially with the plant fibers, this yarn has linen, alpaca, and silk. I'm not sure how much it's going to stretch out or wear over time, so I just wanted the ability to adjust. So yeah, I really love this pattern. And yeah, it's just like super comfortable and nice to throw on and really pretty. I don't know. I did crop it a little bit, but it's long enough for me. I crop almost everything. So, you know, there we go. Okay, and I said we got a break from socks. 1 break. And then I made another pair of socks. These are the Forever Autumn socks by Stone Knits. It is a set of 2 socks. One is this leaf sock, and then the other is an acorn sock. So here is the leaf one. I used the leftovers from making the sample sock for Poppy Spruce Fiber. So this is the colorway Blood Moon. And then the other color is Emma's yarn, Hella Hank, in the colorway Arches. And this is a really nice yarn. It has a little bit of cashmere in it, and so it feels really nice. And it is worn, like, it hasn't worn as well as some of my other sock yarns. You can see there's a fair amount of pilling, but it's really comfy. They're a cute pair of socks, and yeah, I've definitely worn these a lot, so I could definitely depill, but I didn't really treat any of my socks or any of my knits before filming because I wanted them to be in their truest form. Okay, the next thing I made is the Claymy Bless. So this was another test knit. This was for Paisley Knits, and the pattern is yet to be released. So test knit, Paisley Knits, yet to be released. I used 1 strand of Kama Rose Midnight Soul in the color Gragron and another strand of Kama Rose Midnight Soul in the color Lys Beige to kind of make this marled effect that I think it's really beautiful. And then it's an all over moss stitch with a nice deep V and then very thin, like 2-stitch I-cord finishes. This was really fun to knit, and I'm really happy with the finished object. And I went to New York on a business trip during this knit. So it got a lot of plain knitting done, which was awesome. And so I started this on September 11th and finished it on September 26th. And I've worn it a ton. Like, I think that this knit to me is just so casual and like effortless and easy to wear. Like some of my knits feel like I want to be doing something nice when I'm wearing them, or like, I don't want to run errands in them. But this one to me, I'm like, it's really beautiful, but I also am totally comfortable like wearing it to the farmer's market or like going to a bookstore, or I wore it to a Christmas fair with a jacket earlier in November. And so like it gets a lot of wear just because it feels so casual, but it's like a very nice elevated casual. So I love this pattern, and I hope it comes out soon because I think that a lot of other people would love to knit it too. So hopefully, I should double check. I think, no, it's not out. Hopefully it comes out soon, but in the meantime, you can see mine. And yeah, the nice thing about this pattern too, I should say, is that it's written for a lot of different weights of yarn. So I use 2 strands of lace weight, but it also looks amazing in a fingering and a lace or a DK weight alone. Like it has a lot of options there, and all are really beautiful. Okay, I next made a weekend hat and a Soho scrunchie for a baby mother pair. I do not have them with me because they were a gift for a newborn baby and baby's mom. So it was a baby weekend hat and a little matching Soho scrunchie. Weekend hat patterned by Petite Knit, and the Soho scrunchie is a free pattern by Tori Knits NYC. For both of them, I used the yarn Humade, their singles base, in the colorway Familia Sagrada, and I held it double for both. So it looks like this, and it was a really fun knit. I was actually got back from New York on a business trip. I went with my coworker who was expecting on this business trip. He went with me to the yarn store. I went to Knitty City to pick out this yarn and was able to pick it out. He didn't know he was picking this out for a gift for his baby, but was able to kind of subtly figure out what colors he liked and was drawn to, and was able to use that for this knit. And it was really fun. And then when I got back, I got sick and I took an afternoon off work, and I got both the baby hat and the scrunchie done in one day. So that was cool. Well, it doesn't really matter how quickly you get things done, but it's like nice when you're just like, okay, cool, done. And yeah, it's great. Okay, next thing I made, and this has definitely been my most worn piece, and definitely my like magnum opus of the year, or just like my highlight of 2023 knitting, is this Athens cardigan. I realize I just love cardigans. I think I need to make even more cardigans in 2024. It is stunning. Here's the back, the front. And so this is a pattern by Soup Knits or Monmi Choi on Ravelry. And I knit it with 1 strand of Knitting for Olive Merino in the colorway Copper, and 1 strand of Drops Brushed Alpaca Silk in the colorway Rust. And I did have to knit this pretty off gauge. So this is actually the size extra small, but I'm getting measurements closer to the medium. I just could not get the gauge to work for me, but I'm really happy with the finished product. So it was a fun experiment in kind of going off gauge. And yeah, it's beautiful. I don't need to say too much about this because I made a whole 45-minute video about it, but it was really fun to knit, and it has these fun shell buttons, and I knit this in October to wear to the pumpkin patch. So I knit this, started it September 28th, and I finished it October 15th, and I wore it to a pumpkin patch the next weekend, and I really love this. It was great for Christmas. I was wearing it a lot with a green turtleneck, and it looked very subtly Christmassy. It was, of course, great for the fall, and it's just going to be great going forward. It's soft, it's comfy, it's easy to throw on, it's like perfectly oversized, so I love this one. Okay, and then we enter the territory of gift knit starting, and so I don't have a lot of the stuff that I knit from late October through end of December. So First, I made a pair of cardamom tea socks by Emily Weller. A picture. This was a gift for my boyfriend's mom for Christmas. I started them on October 14th and I finished them on October 23rd, and I used Drops Fable in or Fabelle, I'm never sure which, in the lavender print. So there were like a, wasn't self-striping, but like self-patterning sock yarn, and it was really fun to knit up. The cardamom tea socks is a free pattern, and I really liked using it for a gift knit because it does have a lot of ribbing on it, which helps to make sure they would fit. And yeah, she really likes them, and it was very fun to make. And then I also immediately went into another gift knit, which was the Iris hat by Sari Nordlund. I started this one on October 25th and I finished it October 29th. And I used a one-of-a-kind mystery skein in a DK weight from the Dyer Apothecary Fiber Co. They are great. I really like a lot of their colorways, and they have a lot of great mystery yarn sales. So I bought one during one of those sales, and I knit this up for my mom. So I no longer have it either, but I do have a cute picture of her wearing it, and she enjoyed it for Christmas. I will say this pattern, I ended up making a second of it this year, and I will not be knitting it again. I just find that getting the fit right is really difficult. It is a top-down hat, and I don't know, it doesn't fit either my mom's or my head correctly. When I ended up making a version for myself, which you will see later, I increased less than the pattern recommended, and it still is way too big for me. Not way too, I can wear it, but it's still bigger than I would like it to be. So I think I will stick to bottom up hats in the future, but it was a really nice pattern, and I do love the back detail, like the shaping detail on the top is beautiful. So that is the Iris hat. And then I threw in another knit for me in the middle of all of the gift knitting, and I knit the Mauricia cardigan. So this is a pattern by Vert and Rose. It's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. Yes, it used Yarnalia Joy in the colorway Rose Gold, which I also used for this sweater, but it is paired with Fiber Space Cumulus in the colorway Fig. So it is a lot softer against my body, and yes, I love this one. I maybe made the sleeves a little bit long. They just kind of like bunch up like that, but it's fine. It's cozy. And then it fits my body really nicely. Like, I really love this knit. I think that the shaping here, it does use short row shaping. It's just beautiful. So it's a raglan with the short row shaping, and then it's got this faux cabling detailing, and I just think it's stunning, and it's so pretty. One of my coworkers, I was wearing it on Zoom or on Teams, and she asked me if it was from Cezanne, which is like a very fancy French clothing brand that is very well known for their amazing knitwear. And so I felt very, very complimented. It also has these cute little flower buttons. And yeah, it was really enjoyable knit. I brought this on a trip to Ouray, Colorado with me, which is in kind of the southwest of the state, surrounded by mountains, and it was beautiful. It was like a nice little girls' weekend that I got to work on this with one of my really good friends. So good memories, good piece, and I did knit this to wear to the Nutcracker Ballet, which I go to every year with my family, and it was very fun to wear it there. I felt very dainty and like a little ballerina in my cute little cardigan. So overall, quite the success. The next thing I made, I don't have. I made the Tied Knots hat by Justina Lurkowska. I believe that is how you pronounce it. For my dad's girlfriend. I knit it out of Malabrigo Rios in the colorway I speak Spanish. I don't know why I struggle so much. Cumparista. here's a picture of it. It's a beautiful cabled hat pattern, and it's a free pattern too, which is amazing. And I started it on November 12th, finished it November 14th. Oh, the Marcia cardigan was October 30th through November 12th. It was a very fun knit, very easy. I had a lot of trainings the week that I was working on it at work, so I got a lot of daytime knitting time, which I do not always have. So it was very nice to do my online trainings and get to knit. So it went by very quickly, and I was able to give it for Christmas, and I hope that she liked it. Seemed like she did. The next thing I also do not have. I made the superlative sweater by Samantha Guerin for Explore Knits. So this was a sample for Explore Knits and Fibers. Here's a picture. I knit it in the colorways, or in the yarn, their boucle base in the colorway Roller Skate Red, and then their DK, Rocky's DK base for the collars and cuffs in the colorway Grapefruit, which are two colors that are coming out in their monochrome collection, which were finally just released, so I can talk about the names of. So here's a photo of the sweater. It was very fun. It was amazing to sample knit for Explore Knits. Their whole team is wonderful, and it's nice. They're local to Colorado, so I was able to actually drive my sample to them and see their warehouse and see kind of their dye studio. So wonderful experience overall. I started that one on November 14th, and I finished it November 24th. So great times. I also do not have the next thing. Frog and Toad. I made Frog and Toad for one of my really good friends. Honestly, every time I say one of my really good friends, it's been the same friend the whole time. Her name is Leah. So I made Frog and Toad for my friend Leah. She is obsessed with Frog and Toad, and so I knew I wanted to knit this for her since I started knitting, and I finally felt like I had the skills this year to knit the Frog and Toad and gift it to her for Christmas. So I gifted them to her. It was amazing. She immediately started crying and saying, I have an heirloom now. Like, I gifted her an heirloom. So she's the most knit-worthy person I know, and it was really fun. It was really fun to make them. There were some parts where I broke like 3 DPNs knitting these guys. There's a lot of tiny little stitches, and it was slightly frustrating, but in the end, like, they turned out really well. It was fun to make their clothes too, so it was an enjoyable enough process, and I'm happy to have gifted those to her, and she will hopefully have them forever. And here's a picture. I did not already put it up. The next thing I made, I also don't have. I then made the Blooming Lavender Socks by Stone Knits. This was a gift knit for my grandma for Christmas. Started this December 3rd, finished it December 8th, and they're beautiful to make. I used Wandering Flock Maidstone, so the leftovers from my Wildflower Bloom socks, and then Knit Pig Stroll, which is their normal sock yarn, in the colors Peapod and Sprinkle Heather. They were very fun. I shipped them off to my grandma, who lives in California, for Christmas, and she's been knitting all her life, so it was really great to gift that to her, and she told me she was going to show them to all her friends and make all her friends jealous. So very sweet, and a very enjoyable knit. I might make that pattern for myself in the future. Okay, final thing that I do not have of the year. Am I lying to you? No, this is the last thing I don't have. The next thing I made was the Ret Hat by Megan Babin, who is part of Hudson and West. Started this December 9th, finished it December 11th, and it was a hat for my dad. I used Malabrigo Rios in the colorway Taurus, and it was another cabled hat, so I gifted him and his girlfriend same but different cabled hats, and it was really enjoyable to make them both, and he was very happy to receive it. I do not have a picture of him wearing it, but here is a picture of the hat. The next thing I made, which finally I have, was this pattern. It's called the Kitty Balaclava by Kylie Olivia. Let me get a model. This is the Kitty Balaclava by Kylie Olivia. I just woke him up, so he's very sleepy, but this is what it looks like on. You can see that I chose to use red and white, so it was kind of Christmas themed. Make them a little Santa hat. And so I used some of my leftovers from Explore Knits, the boucle in the colorway Roller Skate Red, and then I have some Sandnes Garden Sisu in the colorway White, which I held double to make the ribbing. I did do this pattern pretty wrong. I was supposed to pick up stitches in the ear, and I picked them up kind of in the body. So there is, or not the body, but like the head. And so there is way too much bulk in the head, and the ears are too small. So it looks kind of funny, but it was fun to make. It was like a day-long or 2-day project, so it was pretty mindless. And I just kind of needed a break after all of the gift knits before deciding what big project I wanted to make for myself next. So I enjoyed it for that. And then the next thing I made, I lied. I made 2 of the tiny gilded Christmas jumper ornaments by Fable Knitwear. This is a free pattern, and it was just a tiny little sweater pattern that calls for embroidering in gold initials on the front. So I made these for my aunt and uncle, who I spent Christmas with. One was in the Emma's Yarn Hell Hank in the colorway Arches, which I showed before in these socks. And then the other was in the Jada Wu Designs, the Great Pacific Northwest colorway, which is in these socks. So it was very fun, very enjoyable to knit those, and kind of a nice break. Both took like 1 day each. So yeah, and then I made this pair of socks. The Midwinter sock set by Summerly Designs. I used Malabrigo sock yarn in the colorway Jasmine, and then this white is from the Yarn Addict. I'd ordered kind of a mystery minis bundle, and one of the colors was just like a creamy white. So this is what the pattern looks like. I almost always shorten the leg of my sock, so I basically just did the design and then went straight into the foot. And then it called for steed stitch all over, and yeah, simple sock. I also subbed a short row heel. I think this is just the typical German, I don't think it's a German short row heel. I don't know. It's just short row heel that I subbed for the called for afterthought heel. And yeah, I like the way these look a lot. They were my Christmas socks, and I did a little tip in, or my cast on in the white, which is the first time I've done that. I think it's so cute. And yeah, they're really, really sweet. And I started them on, oh my gosh, December 13th, finished them December 17th. So they went by really quickly. I've realized I'm really good at knitting color work socks really quickly because I just like enjoy them a lot. So I do them quickly. You can see this is my most recently finished pair of socks, and they already have some pilling, especially kind of on the back here. I was wearing these today, and I went on a walk in them. So that's probably why. But I will say I prefer my socks with nylon because this Jasmine colorway does not have nylon. It's just super washable, and they definitely wear a lot quicker, and I feel like the color has kind of changed a lot quicker. So something to note and go into the new year with. I will be using nylon or other reinforced sock yarn in the future. Okay, my last garment of the year. We're almost there, guys. This is blouse number 1, light version by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I started this on December 18th, and I finished it on December 24th, so it only took me 7 days, and I used poppy and spruce fibers, dandelion Surrey in the colorway Fuzzy Blanket. I held it double, and I really love it. It's a really comfortable blouse. I wore this for New Year's, even though I was with my family in California, and so I just stayed at their home and ate cheese. But still, it was really fun to make, and I think that it's like such a cool piece. I loved the construction. It's got this kind of cool seam here and like really nice sleeve shaping, and then it's got kind of bell sleeves, and yeah, it was really easy. It's got a very large gauge, so it only took me a week to knit this, and it was fun to work up. It was nice after all of the accessory and kind of intricate knitting that I'd done to just work on a mostly stockinette, big gauge piece. Okay, y'all, and my final knit of 2023 was another iris hat. So this is the iris hat by Sari Nordlund. I made a version for myself as well. I made it out of the Yarn Addict free range fingering in the colorway Petal Perch, which is the same yarn that I used in this cardigan. And I held it with drops brushed alpaca silk in the colorway Powder Pink. It's a nice hat. Like, here's the shaping that I was mentioning earlier. It makes this kind of cool floral or starburst looking motif, and it's very comfortable. It's just like, glad this is the last thing so I can mess up my hair. It's just like a little bit big for me. I do have a small head, so that could be it, but it feels a little bit big, and it's definitely a little bit floppy. But it's very nice. I'm going to make a pair of matching mittens out of my leftover yarn from this, and I'm excited to have that kind of winter accessories set. And it's a comfy hat. I've worn it a few times since finishing it, and I'm glad I made it. I love the yarn. I love having pink yarn against me, so can't be mad about that. And yeah, that's all I have to say about it. Okay, thank you for tuning in. I think this is going to be a long one. Looking at my timer, I have like an hour and 7 minutes on the clock. So thank you for watching. And I do want to say I knit a lot of things this year, but I am probably in a very different stage of life than others. I work remotely. I do not have kids. My job is more of a traditional 9 to 5, so I actually have time in my evenings and reliable weekends. So I'm very privileged to have the amount of free time I do, and I spend the majority of it knitting. So if you are watching this and feeling bad that you do not have as many finished objects, please don't. Like, we're all in different life stages. Knitting has different importance to all of us, and actually one of my 2024 goals is to knit less. So, enjoy the place where you're at, and that's all I have to say. I'm really looking forward to knitting through another year with you all. This was the year that I started, or 2023 was the year I started my channel, and it was just really overall an amazing year. I'm so glad to have met so many people and started this and shared my knits. So I'm looking forward to doing that for another year. And yeah, I will see you all soon. Bye!